there you have it. And of course, those are some of the some of the biggest stories of the day on the program. But let's get started now to make sense of these stories. Charles Fako, IBrandTV, our senior analyst, joins us now. Thank you for your time. And good to have you again. Happy Workers' Day.
I wish you the same. Thank you. Yeah, we are a worker. I'm also a worker.
or maybe special workers with special duties or responsibilities. Exactly. So we have to be here today.
Of course, that's true.
Okay, let's get started. But I would like to get started from the last story, which talked about the fact that, I mean, it's an update on the story of stranded, an effort of the federal government, you know, to bring them back home. I remember we were here and we talked about the fact that Nigerian government has earmarked about 150 million naira, you know, to bring them back through roads, transportation, you know, and perhaps that effort maybe was not extended to these 2,500 we're talking about, who are currently standing, the students of Sudan universities.
Yes, you know, in this kind of situation, you expect something like this to happen. We know that Sudan is an African country, and most Nigerians are there without being documented. And when issues like this come in, I would just advise the government to see it as a humanitarian exercise, because saying they cannot leave because they were not documented when they were entering the country, do you want them now to die in the war front? So for me, I think they have become refugees, whether we like it or not. Those Nigerian students that are undocumented, so they should be treated as refugee. And I mean, as refugee, they have a right to life. So if where they are currently staying now is a war zone, it is the duty of the government to evacuate them to safety. So we should not be discussing whether to take them out of that place or not. They should be moved away from that danger zone.
Well, would it be, I mean, right to, will I say, categorize or them as a refugee, since the effort is still ongoing? I mean, they still have that chance. The government, of course, the effort is still ongoing to bring them back. Sure. Maybe until they are caught up and they can't even leave. That's when perhaps we can begin to, you know, put them in that category of perhaps. I'm just saying.
Okay. But what? Life, the safety of life is paramount. Whether they are refugee or you categorize them, they are Nigerian students, as long as you have confirmed that they are Nigerians, then it is the duty of the Nigerian government
to bring them back.
To bring them back or take them to safety. That is the first priority.
I know the last time we talked about the fact that the approach the government is using via, you know, transport through the road, the security issues we talked about it the other time, and we also remember that perhaps because that is adopted, maybe because they are passing through the Egyptian border and then bringing them, fly them. But it looks like we also need to begin to ask questions. How many people have been evacuated so far?
Exactly, that's
so
true.
We need to know what the government is doing. We need to ask questions. Do we have statistics of those who have been evacuated? And if we do, how about these current 2,500 that are still stranded?
Exactly.
What the embassy doing there? So I think we need to ask a whole lot of questions here.
Yes, it also shows that, well, I would say the Foreign Affairs Ministry is not doing what they expected to do, and of course the embassy in Khartoum, that's Sudan, and of course the Diaspora Commission. All hands must be on deck now. We're talking of lives of Nigerians. So what are documented or not documented? Again, when we begin to say it is good to keep data, Nigerian government should have data of its citizens that are outside, whether they are schooling or doing other things. You should have data. So when crisis like this is happening, when you evacuate, you check with your data, then you will now know that yes, you have actually evacuated and take to safety your citizen. The Nigerian embassy in Khartoum, that's Sudan, should do all it takes to make sure that any Nigerian that entered that country is documented. And if there are issues, you know, you should just make sure that they are taken care of. And that is why we have that embassy there. So for me, yes, some Nigerians could have just entered there without proper documentation, but this is not the time to begin to ask all those questions. What we want now is for them to be taken to safety.
What would one nice for them to be? I think that's, I mean, very, very germane. Data is key. It's very, very key, and perhaps we need to start asking the government about that. We talked about the issue of census, population census that is upcoming, even though it has been shifted or postponed.
Yes, postponed, yeah.
You know, but we need to get the last data in 10 years, in 20 years.
Exactly, and do some projections.
What would have changed so far?
Exactly.
And that will be able to help us prepare and be able to prepare budget, appropriate budget for such a number.
Planning.
But let's look at other story here. I think let's begin from this first top business headline. We jumped that because that was necessary for us to take. Buhari's 8-year scorecard at workers lament hardship, score president, and the governors very low. So what's your position? I mean, we would know that inflation has jumped from as far as 9% in 2015 to around 22% in 2023.
That's true.
We do know that the exchange rate has jumped from about 190, 200 naira in 2015 to about 700 to 800 naira in the parallel market, and of course between 450 and 500 in the official window.
Yes, we can go on and on to release all those data. It will not solve any problem. It is there, and that is why I will agree with the workers that yes, Buhari government or APC-led Buhari administration has performed below expectations of Nigerians. This is not politics. This is the fact on ground. A lot of expectations. Personally, I expected so much from a former general. And you can see the massive voting for him when he came in 2015. A lot of expectations. Nigerians wanted to see things happening. And of course, they came with that mantra of change. First 4 years, we didn't see any change. When he now came, the next 4 years, it was another slogan again. Maybe, I can't remember that slogan, but something next level. And Nigerians were still hoping. 4 years has already gone now. We have not seen any improvement. Well, you will say in some areas, but the particular areas, the economy has not improved. You have just released some of this data. We've seen inflation going so high. We've seen price of food commodities going so high. In terms of even security, we've seen banditry. We've seen, for the first time, we saw where Nigerian train will be, is it hijacked now or attacked by bombs by bandits or terrorists? Well, the only place I would say the government has done quite well is in the northeast. We will see a significant reduction in the insurgency in that area. Yes, because I have spoken with some of the soldiers who were there, and they will tell you they have taken control of that situation. We just see some 1 or 2 flashes here and there.
You cannot deny the fact that I mean, that is their perhaps their hub, or yes, the area where they majorly dominate the activities recorded there. Most of the activities in terms of if you put scale of 10, you say that the activities of the insurgents is more pronounced there than in other parts of the country.
That's true. And because I mean, I have visited Maiduguri within this period, and you could see the tension. But now, you get to Maiduguri, you would think it's a normal life, because people are not too afraid again. They tell you this will only happen in the hinterlands, and of course, the Nigerian military is in total control of the situation.
The president do have 28 days to go. Today is May 1st already. I mean, 28 to the end of the tenure. I mean, quite a lot of people will be remembering, the president for something specific. Perhaps, maybe some will remember him because he has been able to address the issue of infrastructure to a certain level.
Yes,
some will remember him as someone who has been able to lay a foundation as to giving us a proper free and fair election. I mean, by signing that act alone, electoral act, of 2022 into law. Some people will remember him for that. But basically, just before we move on to next one, basically, what would you say as an analyst that he can be remembered for? Not in terms of negative negativity or negative record or low performance now, but in terms of maybe the area where he has perhaps performed.
Well, again, his government has, yes, they've shown some sign. They tried to make Nigerians believe. Of course, they signed so many bills into law. A lot. We saw the business facilitation law. We saw the tech startup. We saw the PIA. So many. But again, my problem is it is not just. Yes, we give him kudos for taking that bold step. I remember him. Of course, those in the oil and gas sector would say that PIA has been there for over 15 years, and it was his time. It was signed into law. But have we started implementing it? No.
That's the biggest question. Okay, because of the time, let's move to another one. And this talks about the infrastructure. We're talking about the legacy of President Muhammadu Buhari, and that brings us to the fact that the Lagosibadan expressway, which is an example and has been there for quite some while now, the due date was supposed to be April 30, which is yesterday, but I know the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, said they couldn't complete it because of many factors. If you recall, data has shown that billions of naira has gone into that project.
Yes.
So how will they assess the government about on this particular project?
Well, again, the spokesperson for the government will say they have done this, they have done that. We are still talking about the second Niger bridge that's in the south and the southeast. It's still there. Then the Lagos-Ibadan Express. I mean, I expect that by now that road should have been done and completed, but we keep having this issue. Yes, there could be technical issues concerning why they've not been able to complete that road. But what Nigerians want to know is be open to Nigerians. Let Nigerians. The minister is saying heavy traffic, this, that. But you give a date. Yes, I know in production, in project, when there are certain things happen, you might not meet your completion deadline. Explain it to Nigerians. Nigerians will understand and tell us, okay, this is the time we're going to open this road. Not trying to be smarter or smart and making Nigerians as if we don't know what we are doing. If you see the traffic on that road, Lagos-Ibadan Express, in fact, people will pray if you want to travel from Lagos to Ibadan. So what Nigerians want is not all these ones the minister is telling us, there is heavy traffic, there is this, there is that. Complete this road, open it, and let there be free flow of traffic. Let Nigerians move from Lagos to Ibadan. Of course, that is the gateway.
That's right.
From Lagos to other parts of the country. So let that road be complete and delivered to Nigerians. Simple and clear.
And also consider the implications of the fact that a loss of hours of manpower have been lost.
And of course, security implications there, yes. You know, and all that. So, yes, the minister should just make sure the contractors are on top of their job. They make sure they deliver as at when due. And if there are issues, explain to Nigerians who understand. But we want that project to be completed. We're hearing too much about Lagos-Ibadan on a daily basis, too much. And again, we should maintain that culture. That maintenance culture, not wait till the whole road is bad. Yeah, we have this quick intervention. Why do you have FEMA? Quick intervention. When the particular portion is bad, before you know what, the people are there overnight. They work and it is done. By the time you come in the morning, you are, oh, this is that we done. Not wait, then you want to award so much contract and all that. So we should have that maintenance culture. And I believe that, yes, this government has done so much when it comes to infrastructure. But again, you need the human element to make use of this infrastructure. So I will not score them. I will still go with the workers. The government has performed below expectations.
Okay, let's take a look at the final story here, which talk about the housing development.
Also part of infrastructure.
Which of course part of infrastructure as well. A group is demanding for the release of intervention fund promised in 2020 by the Central Bank of Nigeria. It wasn't even a promise; it was signed. A loan that was signed in, more like a signing into law.
Yes, so an intervention fund.
Yes, an intervention fund that was signed in 2020. Now, let's look at this particular headline in a broader way. Not just we shouldn't limit it to the fact that there's 200 naira or 200 billion intervention approved by the central bank then, but we should look at the holistic, the sector as a whole.
Yes.
How has the sector been developed over the years? There are about more than 20 million housing deficit.
Yes.
And the data. I mean, the data that was the last data. That was as at 2017.
Yes, 2017. That's
2017.
Yes.
As at 17, that was 17 million. When the Minister of Works, then I think was combining about three
Works,
ministries together.
Mine and power.
Yes.
And
It was combining
yes.
3 ministries at that time.
Yes.
He told us that look, that the country has about 17 million housing deficit. Between then and now, what has been done? I think we need to begin to ask questions. This administration will wind down in the next, 28 days, less than a month to go now. So what has been done? Yes, we talked about road infrastructure. We talk about, business facilitation bills and all of that.
Yes.
Ease of doing business is another thing. But how about shelter? Because it's the basic needs of a common man.
Yes, that's a very... I must give kudos to that Festus Adebayo. I know him personally. Yes, he runs housing development and have had some mortgage experience. And when this 200 billion naira intervention was made, then I was doing some work for a mortgage bank. We were all excited that yes, more workers are going to own their own property. There were so many schemes. Rent to own. NHF. We saw a lot of, we were even getting so many customers come to the mortgage bank, open an account, access this loan. Federal Mortgage Bank was also doing all. And we thought, yes, this housing deficit will be reduced, at least from the organized government sector and organized private sector. But 3 years down the line, that fund has still not been
It's still hanging.
It's still hanging. Then the question we are asking is, who is withholding that fund? Is it the central bank? Is it the Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria? Is it the Ministry of Works and Housing? Or where is that money? So again, that comes back to what I keep saying: trust. There is serious deficit trust between Nigerians and their government.
That's right.
If you want mortgage, that is to intervene in terms of mortgage, and that is the only way we will reduce this housing deficit. Today, workers are celebrating Workers' Day. Take statistics. Some workers will have put in 35 years, yet they don't have shelter over their head. When they are asking just basic accommodation, and most of these workers are contributing to NHF, National Housing Fund. So not that you are just going to give them this fund to build or buy their houses, they are also contributing. And the scheme is there. Now, the 200 billion was to fast track and facilitate that mortgage process, to incentivize people who want to take this mortgage. But what happened? We did not release the funds. It's a big problem. Again, let us even correct an impression. The minister is saying that 17 million deficit, housing deficit.
In 2017.
Yeah, 2017.
Oh.
Now, he's even saying, with due respect to him, that there is no, that data. Is it from the World Bank? Is it from the NBS? That is not even sure where that data is coming from. But as far as he's concerned, there is nothing like housing deficit. That what we have is people who stay in good houses in the villages and they come to the city, they need to squat. That's why we're having most of the deficits in the urban areas. But I stand to challenge him. Go to the rural areas. You also see that there is no better accommodation there. So you should not just assume. So in terms of solving that housing deficit, all hands must be on deck. The government, the mortgage. Again, I must mention, the mortgage bankers are also a problem to reach. Federal Mortgage Bank, yes, they are there as a government bank to facilitate this process. But the mortgage bankers are also acting like commercial bankers. Yes, that is it. They're acting as commercial bankers because they take money from the Federal Mortgage Bank and they give it to their customers. And of course, some of them charge commercial rates. That's why the NHF is there to facilitate this process. And that's why the intervention money came into being. But today, we have been told it has not been released. So we need to be concerted. We need to be intentional. Both CBN, Federal Mortgage Bank, mortgage bankers, and of course the Ministry of Works and Housing.
I mean, time is against us. I mean, we would have looked at the housing boom, the opportunities in Nigeria. I mean, with the population growth, which has been recorded at 3% annually. So what will happen in the next 10 years? What will happen in the next 15, 20 years, 2 decades from now? A 10-year-old now, in 2 decades from now, he needs his own house.
Exactly.
So that's a big market. I mean, and these are some of the things we need to begin to talk about now.
That's true. The projection. If our projects,
the
deficit
them into national development plan.
Exactly. The deficit will be more than 30 million now. Yes, and that is why this population and housing sensor is very, very necessary. And again, we must commend the government for saying we can't do it. Let's leave it for the incoming government. For me, that's a kudos.
Well, I hope the incoming government will say, okay, well, let's leave it for another incoming government.
No, because it is something. Because if you do it now, just less than 1 month to go, then of course it doesn't really make sense. So.
I mean, they had 8 years. I mean,
it's part of why workers are calling this present government low.
Okay, let's leave it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Charles Fakoha, IBrandTV analyst. We thank you for coming on the show.
It's always a pleasure.
And have a great a day as a worker.
Yes, I have somewhere to give a lecture on planning workers' finances.
It's all right. Have a great day, Charles. All right, we'll take a break now. And when we return, of course, we look at the equities market and focus on the first quarter positive earnings, which has impacted into the performance of the market and outlook for the month of May. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.